save this. All right. Good evening, everyone. It is great to see you all, both my current students and my future students. Oh my goodness, what happened? This is my life.
You got it, Val.
Thanks. The struggle's real. Okay. Well, again, good evening, everyone. Great to see you all. So as I mentioned in the Class of 22 Google group, I realized during our last meet and greet that a lot of the questions you all were asking were ones that could probably best be answered by current students as opposed to by me. So today, here's your opportunity to do exactly that. So we've got 5 awesome members of the current cohort, MSA 21, and you can pick their brains as much as you would like. So we'll start off by having them introduce themselves, each of the panelists, and then we'll open up the floor to all of you new MSA 22 folks for questions. So feel free to use the little Zoom reaction feature to raise your hand, and I'll just kind of call on you in the order that you have questions. Or if you think of a question, you want to just pop it into chat so you don't forget it, that's fine too. We'll get to it. So with that, let's go ahead and we'll get started with some panelist introductions. So if you all wouldn't mind sharing, obviously your name, where you're from, however you define that, a little bit about your backstory in terms of your previous studies, or if you have any previous work experience, and if you wouldn't mind sharing your practicum sponsor this year as well. So we'll just go down the line if that works for you all. So Abby, would you like to kick us off?
Absolutely. It's really nice to meet everyone. My name is Abby Edwards. So I'm a recent graduate of Appalachian State University. So I was a double major in marketing and economics. And yeah, my practicum sponsor is Visionist. So we're working with sports data, which has been very interesting.
All right. Ethan Cole, go right ahead.
Hey everybody, my name is Ethan Cole Evans. Ethan Cole is my first name, and I am a slightly less recent graduate of NC State December 2019, and I double majored in textile engineering and international studies, and from Mebane, North Carolina. If you don't know where Tanger is, I was there before Tanger anyway. And I am in a practicum with Putnam Investments.
Awesome, thank you. And sorry, I put 20 instead of 19 as your grad. You're Ethan Cole.
Okay.
No offense. All right, Mackenzie, you're up.
Cool. Hey, everybody. I'm Mackenzie, and I'm from Winston-Salem, which is about 2 hours west of Raleigh. I went to the University of Richmond, and I studied mathematical economics. Super cool. And then after undergrad, I worked for a year as a traveling consultant for my sorority's national headquarters. And now I am working with Advanced Auto Parts as my practicum sponsor.
Excellent. All right, Michael, you're up.
I'm Michael Tobin. I am from Charlotte, North Carolina originally. Went to UNC for undergrad, was econ and history major, but come here by way of Bend, Oregon. I was living out on the West Coast for 6 years after college. Last job was at a bank, First Interstate Bank. I was an underwriter there. And right now, my practicum sponsor is Bank of America. So stay in the banking world.
All right, and last but not least, Jackie.
Hello. My name's Jackie. I am from China. I grew up there until I was 14, and then I came to the States. I first lived in Philadelphia for a few years and then kind of moved around. And then now for my job at Deutsche Bank, I moved to Cary, North Carolina. I studied computer science and finance in undergrad, and then went on working as a software engineer for Deutsche Bank. And now I'm here doing the program.
Excellent. Well, thank you all. So MSA 22 folks, who wants to be the brave soul who launches the first question? This is your floor, whatever you want to ask the current students.
I guess I can ask. My name's Dan, by the way. I'm super excited to be joining this program. I am currently working as a process development engineer, but in order to prepare for the program, I'm taking some time off. So my last day of work is going to be March 3rd, which I'm pretty excited about. Anyway, with that time, I'm trying to think of how much I feel like I'm decent with stats and math. I'm sure I'll probably do the primer, but I think the coding is probably the weaker aspect of what I can do. So I guess I'm just wondering how much time did you guys spend pre-program if you weren't good at coding, getting ready for it? I guess I guess that's the general question.
I can start. I had really no background in coding at all, so I obviously tried to train up some before interviewing for the program because it's something that they want to see, and I wanted to have something to talk about. But once I knew I was in and going to be coming here, I really buckled down, and I spent a lot of time, I would say, in data camp, trying to do Python and R particularly. But I would also recommend looking at those SAS e-learnings as well, because you'll use SAS a lot in the summertime, and it's good to kind of be able to hit the ground running with that and feel comfortable in it.
Yeah, I did the same things that Michael did with the data camp for Python and R, and then also the SAS e-learnings. And I think I started during the primer. The primer like classes and the work that you do with that took me like 3-ish hours a day. So you have plenty of time to practice your coding too.
Yeah, piggybacking off of Mackenzie's comment, I also did the primer, and a good way to sort of leverage killing two birds with one stone is like trying to do R to do some of the statistical stuff you sort of go through. And it's not super hard stuff. It's like, divide this number by this number, so assign this a variable, but it gets you in the habit of thinking about, oh, how could I do this in code as opposed to writing it all by hand? Because I picked up a pencil, I think once in the last 3 months, maybe. So it's kind of like that.
I think going off of that as well, so I was also not very technical coming into the program, and something that I really utilized was my my peers. So reaching out and talking through code with people, or if you have a question, everyone's really friendly. So just reaching out and saying, hey, could you help me with this, has really helped my understanding, especially with the more intense coding projects that we do.
Thanks.
I guess to complete the full circle, I was very technical, I guess, on the more technical side because I study computer science, but I just want to like add in, I think everyone, like a lot of people still have like imposter syndrome where like, even if you know how to code, like you still feel like, oh my God, like I don't know how to do this. Like, so just like kind of like when you have those moments, really believe in yourself and just talk to your friends and you can work this out. It's not really super hard. It gets very frustrating sometimes, but you can do it.
One thing I'll toss out there. Oh, sorry. One thing I'll toss out there that is a little bit different for you all newbies coming in is that this summer, instead of really just focusing on SAS as we've traditionally done during the summer 2 session, we're going to mix it up and do kind of a combo platter of SAS and R. Just because we want to start integrating some open source into the curriculum a little bit earlier on than we have traditionally. So whether that's for better or worse for you all based on your background, I don't know, but just so that you have that heads up, that will be one small change to the curriculum for this year. Other questions, just jump on in.
Go ahead.
Okay. One question I have is, how has the online environment kind of affected how you guys learn, or has it been tough kind of managing time? Were there ever any like asynchronous videos you guys had to watch, or is everything kind of like at the same time?
I guess I can start us off. So the faculty does a fantastic job of responding, one, to feedback, and then to 2, respecting really our time and making sure everything stays organized in an online platform. So basically what we do is we have a scheduler that schedules out pretty much every single day with both asynchronous and synchronous material. And it really helps everyone stay organized and keeps everyone on track and on the same pace. So I know at least from my experience, I've felt that I've been able to actually manage my time almost better than if I were in person, just because I'm a little less distracted and able to really focus and dig deep on both asynchronous and synchronous material.
A lot of the primer, we had a lot of asynchronous videos to watch, and then we would do like a synchronous, like hour-long kind of class where we could practice what we learned. But pretty much everything now is synchronous, where we're just going through slides with a professor during class. And I agree with Abby. Like, I think it's pretty easy to manage our time and like stay focused from home. I also think it's really nice to not have any sort of commute and can dress a little bit more casually when we have our cameras off and are working at home.
And
Yeah.
oh, sorry, I was just going to make a note about the fact that even though the classes are at this point mostly synchronous, we do record everything and always have, even pre-COVID. So if you want to go back and review any of the lectures at 2 times the speed or whatever you want to do, just to kind of gloss over topics that you don't need to hear again, but to dig more deeply into the ones that you do need to hear again, that's something you can always do. Sorry, go ahead, Ethan Cole.
All good, Val. Yeah, I agree with everything everyone said at this point. It's the faculty have done a great job. It's really kind of on you, especially in the summer, to make sure you sort of keep up with the pace. But I don't think they give you too many specific like asynchronous videos to like, you know, intake in a day. It ends up equaling about how long you'd spend in class. So it works out. But yeah, the faculty have done a great job pivoting.
Craig, did you have a question before?
Yeah, my question sort of overlaps with that a little bit, but I was going to say or ask what the biggest challenges have been for the practicum projects, having like working in a virtual environment for the most part.
I can go ahead, start this off. I would say that the biggest, so my practicum sponsor is Verizon, and then they are actually a new sponsor this year. So we don't really have like a lot of other sponsors. They have liaisons where like they are previous grads, so they would be more familiar with the program, but mine is very new. So I would say my practicum's biggest challenges in terms of the size of the data and not necessarily the virtual environment. And I think because the institute and even the company itself, like they're all very used to these remote working. So we would just have our meetings with them, you know, how frequently you want. We do mostly bi-weekly meeting. So we would just meet with them online, and that's not really a problem. And the challenge of the size of the data, it would be like something really simple that we want to do, and it would just take hours and hours or days, weeks to do. But I think that's the beauty of the practicum. You're able to get a real world experience as a student. So now like we're in the interview season, like a lot of interview questions are anchored around the practicum, and I feel like I'm able to use my practicum experience to really like explain my my analytical experience.
I guess kind of going off of Jackie's comment and looking at it from a team bonding standpoint. So the online platform I know has been a little more challenging, just trying to bond as a team and really make sure that everyone is um, getting together and feeling like a team. But that really has just led to us having to take more initiative to kind of get together. And it actually has resulted in more, I think, genuine bonding than if it were forced, because it's something that we actually really want to do to see people and really get to meet and bond with our team, since we don't get to see them every day. So that's kind of been really fun for me.
Yeah, I would agree with what Jackie and Abby said. I think some of it comes down to like logistical stuff. Something I've ran up against with my team is like, I wanted to sort of have like some sort of kind of bonding session to talk about interview season because it's a little stressful, understandably. And they were like, maybe we can just talk about it during stand up because the whole other meeting is going to be kind of a lot and in our whole schedules right now. And I was like, very fair. So it's sort of dealing with the more of the Zoom fatigue as opposed to the idea of a logistical issue with the practicum itself. I think a lot of the issues we run up against are in practicum are relatively standard from what I would imagine other classes have had before us, of like too much data or you know, maybe miscommunications in some cases, but really it's just sort of that team oriented issues. But like Abby said, we're really trying to be more proactive in creating those bonds ourselves. Like if I want to hop on a Zoom meeting with somebody, like I'm gonna get something out of it because I don't want to do it for no reason.
Yeah, I would kind of going off of that, you know, one of the things that is lost a little bit is just the idea of like sitting in a room together and trying to tackle a problem together. Even if, you know, in a non-virtual world, you don't really have a lot to talk about. If you're just sitting there working independently, when something does come up, you can just ask the person next to you. And now, you know, we're all separated. And it's like Ethan said, you don't want to put people on a Zoom call just to talk or to like be there in the same room if it's not very intentional. So, you know, trying to do things like a working session where you have a Zoom on, but, you know, your camera's off and you can get up and walk and get some water, but the people are still kind of there if you need them. I think that's been one workaround to one of the biggest challenges for me.
Yeah, my team has been doing the same thing as Michael, and I think it's been really helpful to just kind of like have that support while you're doing work, but trying to avoid the Zoom fatigue because it is really real to be sitting on Zoom all day long and it gets very tiring. But I think that's a really good workaround.
And Dan, to your question in the chat about your class of 22 status for format, I think realistically your summer is going to be probably virtual. I think it's hard to imagine how it could not be at this stage in the game. But fall semester, it's much more likely that we'll have kind of the infrastructure in place to be able to have you at least hybridized. If not, I think it's probably not totally realistic to think that we'd have 60 people in a classroom even come fall. But to be able to have 20 or 30 people in a classroom at a time is, I think, a little bit more feasible based on kind of what we're seeing right now with vaccine rollouts and things like that. So probably some sort of a hybrid model, which is frankly what we had hoped for this current class. But of course, given the way the pandemic played out in the US, that wasn't unfortunately possible. But I think we're at least at a point as a state and as a nation where we can probably be pretty optimistic that fall will involve some physical face-to-face time.
Thanks.
Sure. Current students, have any of you taken advantage of using the Institute space?
Yeah, I have actually. So it has been kind of nice getting to go to the Institute, and we do like Institute Fridays. So there's some of us that will go to the Institute on Friday and like get lunch and get to meet in person. Everyone's in masks and like it's very safe, 6 feet apart. But it has been kind of nice getting to see people in person and getting to actually go to the Institute and see where we would have been if we had been able to be in person.
Yeah, and there's also some small group conference rooms that permit, I think, up to 5 people to be in them at a time. And that's been really nice to go in and work with the team in an in-person environment. You know, with everyone being remote, we try not to do it too much because, you know, some people have to drive and stuff. But it's really a good way to just kind of get together in a physical space from time to time and just kind of reconnect.
What other questions do you all have? It could be about anything. It could be like mundane stuff as well as.
Regarding the collaboration rooms, are they set up for, I guess, like hybrid meetings? So for example, having like Zoom technology within the room?
Yeah, it's actually been really interesting. We've been able to, well, I guess kind of staying away from that, it's you're able to project things on a screen. Like there's a huge screen that comes down and you can attach your computer and then anyone can join a Zoom call and you can like Zoom with the whole room. So it's really interactive. If someone, like I think we have a few students that are out of state right now just because of the pandemic. So they've been able to call into meetings and we'll be able to actually have everyone in one room together.
And even in non-COVID times, teams will often use that functionality for having conversations with practicum sponsors where they actually want to see them and feel like they're in the same room with them. Even to somebody's earlier question, Craig, I think it was yours, like even under non-COVID circumstances, the vast majority of your interactions with your practicum sponsor are virtual, with the exceptions of maybe the kickoff meeting and the final presentation at the end of the project in April. So even then, you know, it's sort of that same deal as far as the dynamic between the team and the sponsor.
Thank you.
This is a totally different topic, but one thing that's just been on my mind recently is trying to figure out housing. I'm a current college senior and I've been fortunate enough to have my university pretty much take care of my housing for the past 4 years. So I don't really have much experience just dabbling in the housing market. I know Valerie has sent along some really nice documents and like write-ups of recommendations that previous students have had, but I wasn't sure if anyone could, you know, tell me a little bit more about their experience.
I mean, personally, I live in a 1-bedroom apartment and rent is about $900 a month, but I know other people have are renting houses or are staying in apartments with like more bedrooms and are living with students from the MSA to kind of cut down on costs that way. But I think like $600 to $1,000 a month is what you can expect to pay in rent.
So I was working before, so I already had some experience like apartment hunting. And then I also am married, so I was looking for a 2-bedroom, but I really strongly recommend this place called The Greens. It's like right on campus sort of. And then it's like, so when you go to school, you can like literally walk to school. And then I feel like it's an off-campus, on-campus housing. So it's like also very quiet and then you can go on morning runs. But yeah, strongly recommend.
And actually some of the current students, classmates are going to be sharing, they're going to be adding to that Google map that you all have access to with all of the different housing recommendations. In fact, my colleague Laura just sent out a link like moments ago to the current class to say like, hey, let us know about, you know, housing recommendations and things of that nature. And we'll also share with you all as subleases start to become a thing. We'll start posting them in the Google forum. I already know there's one guy in the cohort whose parents own a place and they've already said that they only ever want to rent to MSA students. And so I don't know how many people that accommodates, maybe 4. But yeah, there will be options. You guys are like the quietest group ever. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm failing to raise my hand on Zoom.
Oh,
hi everyone, my name is my name is Anna. I'm from Russia. I'm very excited to be here with you today. So I actually have 2 questions, and I think my first question is for Valerie. Since you said the summer semester will be online and then we might go into a combination thing, what does that mean for international students, like visa-wise and everything?
It should be fine for you all. So since you need to be in the US for 2 continuous semesters in order to have your OPT, you'll be in theory here in Raleigh for fall and spring semesters, and so you'll be fine. We've been working closely with the Office of International Services to make sure that you guys are accounted for. And if you want to be here in the summer, and if you're able to get your visa and travel here for the summer, you can absolutely be here. In fact, from a time difference standpoint, time zones standpoint, that might actually be preferable. That way you don't have to be awake at crazy hours over in Russia or for other international students, anywhere they happen to be.
Yeah, it's 3 in the morning here right now. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But my next question is: you guys said you're into the interview season now. Can you tell me something about your first impressions? How's it going?
That might be a,
introverts on this panel.
that might be a person to person answer. I think overall, I will try and keep it broad. It's nice in the fact that there's a lot of availability to do interviews. So the spring looks very different than the fall, in the sense that fall is like regular school, like you have class 5 days a week. In the spring, we have class only Mondays and Fridays. And so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are free to have interview availability, whereas you don't have any class you have to schedule around, but you still have, meetings for homework teams or practicum teams, things like that. But that's really nice. So you don't have to worry about doing that, trying to schedule in between classes. And a lot of companies that hire from internally in the institute know that already, and will only schedule interviews on one of those days. So yeah, it's a good system, I'll say.
I guess also adding on to the support from the institute, I really feel very supported in terms of the company that come through internally. Like even as early as, I remember like back in fall semester, we would have companies that comes to do analytics and practice session. So you would like already start learning about the company back in fall. And then now they're still doing info session, but like I guess through the school, we have this wonderful, amazing person called April that would just like help us through like getting us connected to the employers, potential employers, and like maybe working out the interview schedules. So I feel supported in that way, and I know that Institute will have my best interest in heart, and then like they will support. Like I can just email April for like any questions or confusions that I have. So yeah, but I'll stop it there.
No, but piggybacking off of what Jackie said, you'll see those statistics, and it shows, the percentage of people that find employment through the institute and its employers. But you do get to search outside of that, and it's not like you're on an island. You're very supported when you do want to search for companies outside of who's coming through. And if you take that effort and let April know, she'll do everything in her power to like connect you with whoever she can at those companies as well. So it's not like there's internal and you got a bunch of support there, then external you're all on your own. You're supported in both job searches. So that's really helpful.
I'll say too that talking to alumni has been really helpful in my interview search. Like alumni are so willing to talk to current students about what they're doing and how they like their job. So reaching out to them on LinkedIn and just like messaging them to see if they have a half hour free to just talk to you about what they do. They're always available and happy to do that. And it's really helpful to better understand the company.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what everyone said, and especially definitely reach out. The alumni network is there for a reason, and everyone's really willing to talk and really helpful, and will answer any questions that you have. And then something else, I guess, as it's like a side note, sorry, is that so interviewing can also be pretty exhausting. So just being kind to yourself and making sure that you are taking a break and taking a breather. It's always great to talk to people, but sometimes you just need to take a moment. So just remembering that.
Hey, so I know you all come from different backgrounds in your undergraduate experiences. And I'm sure a lot of you have been like very active on campus with balancing like extracurriculars as well as just dealing with like difficult schoolwork. So I was just curious on your personal experiences, whether you feel this program has been more or less stressful than your undergraduate experience.
More.
Yeah, I was gonna say that this program's probably as stressful as my most stressful semester in college. There's definitely always a lot of work to do, and you're just learning so much so quickly. I've heard the phrase like drinking through a fire hose, which just means that there's so much information coming at you so quickly. So it's definitely tough, but it is manageable if that helps you feel better.
And it's rewarding. I mean, I think there was times in college where there were classes where I had really had to motivate myself to sit down and study because the classes weren't that exciting. But you know, if you're here, you know this is something you're interested in, and those times where you do kind of just have to crank out hours of work, it's actually kind of fun, and it's easier to sit down and put yourself through that because you know you're here because you chose to be here, and it's actually pretty interesting what you're learning.
Kind of going off of that, it's also really helpful knowing that your peers are going through the exact same thing. So even though you come from different backgrounds, you're all going through the same intense program together. And you're constantly working in teams and working in groups. So definitely, you know, when things are getting really intense and challenging, leaning on each other has been really helpful. And just making sure that you're communicating when things are getting just a little too much, can that way and that way people can delegate tasks and make sure that things are still getting accomplished and finished.
I would add on one last thing is there's different types of stress in the program. So like in the summer, it's all kind of just get everything out the door as well as possible, just because that's more the drinking through the fire hose phase, in my opinion, that Mackenzie was sort of talking about. It's just everything's coming at you at once. But in sort of later in the fall, there's still things to do, but it's less intense, I think, in my opinion. And then in the spring, now there's less class, but more interviews. So it's kind of different. So if you feel like there's, you know, you have different skill sets here or there, at one point during the year where you're probably going to feel, you know, less stressed or at least more confident in your abilities, whatever they happen to be.
Thank you.
How late do people usually work up until the start of the program? And with the primer course, I assume that it's doable while working, but just want to check that.
I worked until I think the second week in May, and I think for us, summer one started second week in June, but then the primer course started maybe in April or March. And the primer you can do while you're working. And I also had to move across the country, so that was another thing for me. But um, I don't know if geographically, if you're closer, you could probably work a little later to then. But I gave myself about a month.
Yeah, I'm trying to like remember, but I also worked until June. So I think I was working through primer, and it's definitely doable.
Yeah, we encourage folks, especially if you're just trying to save up as much money as you can, like by all means work through primers.
Thank you for that comment, Valerie. That's encouraging. I was thinking about the same thing. When should I, resign or quit from my job? But because I read through the notes here, I printed out. Valerie sent to us. It described like the primary can be, give us a few options. Like you can learn, lively, or you can just watch the recording of the classes. So I was thinking maybe I could just look at watch the recordings instead of have to sit in front of the computer every morning to learn. So that's a really great option, and give people like me the flexibility.
I might mention one thing, just since there's some questions around it, I mentioned earlier I'm resigning on March 3rd from my current job. So I've worked for like 8 years now, and I'll just say for maybe some of the younger folks, obviously do whatever you need to do. I think I'm lucky I'm in a kind of situation where I can do that. But one thing I regretted from when I was first graduated college, I kind of worked. I was in school, like I had 18 hours my whole senior year, and then I did a summer class to finish out college, and then I started my first job a week later, and I've regretted that decision forever, because I was like 2 weeks into that job, and I was like, oh my god, I'm so burnt out, and it took me a second to so I guess, yeah, just a perspective, if you maybe just for curiosity, if you can, maybe give yourself a little bit of time. It's one of my regrets at one point in my life.
And that's one of the benefits too of with the primer. If you need to take a week for vacation or whatever, just to get away after if you're graduating this year or something like that, you can do that and just catch up on the recordings. And so it's kind of by design for that very reason. And something else to look forward to as far as having some of that time off is oftentimes once you finish up the MSA, your job won't start immediately. And we'll see what happens with these 5 and where they land and when they start. But it's common to not start until June or something like that. And so you'll have a little bit of time then as well to regroup and have some time for yourself. And hopefully by next June or next May, travel will be back on the table again.
It looks like Logan Barnes has their hand up, so.
Yeah, how's it going, guys? Kind of going off from what we were saying earlier about the stress and the workload. That's one of the things that I'm kind of worried about, just because I've been out of school for a little over a year now, and with the pandemic and everything, work's been kind of slow, not getting too many shifts, so I find myself with a lot of time on my hands, and it's kind of had me get into this sort of mindset where I'm not constantly doing something, not very busy. So my question would be, what are some things that you guys did leading up to the program to kind of get back into the mind of being able to handle a large amount of work, a large workload, stress? Just how did you guys get into that mindset?
For me, I love a lot of structure in my days. So like I got one of those daily planners where you can literally plan out your day by hour. I mean, personally, I prefer the paper. Google Calendar works the exact same way if you prefer that. But for me, it's really helpful to plan out exactly what I'm going to do each day and like when I'm going to do specific tasks. Because your to-do list can get really long, but it feels much more manageable if you actually plan out when you're going to do it, how much time you're going to spend on certain things, and then also scheduling time like for yourself, like working out or like eating meals, honestly, whatever you need to really feel like you while you're still managing your stress.
I also want to add on to Mackenzie's point. Besides, I also use a planner, like a handwritten planner and Google Calendar, but also I think the program itself really eases you in a little bit. So there's the primer, which is like only a few hours a day, and there's the summer. So summer, depending on your experience level, some people would like work later, some people would work till like earlier. So it really depends. But then fall, it gets like the fall 1, fall 2 semester gets like super intense. So by the time you get to like the super intense module, you already have the primer and the summer to build up to that. So like your learning muscle is already there. So I felt like prepared, easy into this super hardcore modules.
Yeah, and as
learning muscle.
I was going to say, just as it's kind of accelerating and building up, it is really easy because you'll have all these classes you're taking. You'll have the practicum, which is basically an open-ended project, and at any time you feel like you could be doing more work on it. And then you'll have a menu of certifications that you can try and take as well. So there is this feeling, especially by maybe fall 2, where you always feel like there's more you could be doing. And at that point, it is important to remember to do some things for yourself and to take care of yourself. And like me, I'm married, so I remembered to like put aside time to spend with my wife, or I could just work through the night and then I'd be leaving her alone all night. So it's like, it's important to also have some balance because it will accelerate. And as it's starting to do that, remember to like take some time for yourself as well, I would say.
Yeah, just from my experience, and I kind of cheated because I came from right from undergrad, so I had the routine kind of already set, but just staying in my routine has been really helpful. And just making sure that, kind of like Mackenzie mentioned, to be structured and stay organized with whatever tools that you find helpful, because it is really individualistic. Google Calendars, like they mentioned, a big one. Yeah, written notes, but yeah, anything you can do to keep yourself organized, I think, is one way to alleviate stress.
Yeah, piggybacking off of what Abby is talking about, definitely feel free, especially before the program starts, to like try out different systems. I know I started with Evernote in the summer and then switched to Notion for, I like typed notes personally, but people have different systems. It's going to be a lot easier if you know what you want going in than if you try to switch in the middle of it. So just try things out.
I'll just mention, I'm a huge proponent of the Pomodoro method. You know, that way you can just sort of set up like very small chunks of your day and not really feel overwhelmed with what you have to get done and be super focused for 30 minutes. And then, you know, it's surprising how much you can get done if you don't have any distractions. So I encourage you, you know, just as everybody said, to find something that works for you.
Other questions or thoughts or concerns?
I have a kind of technical question for any of the teams. If you're doing a lot of machine learning and stuff like that, does the university have resources for training on clusters and things of that nature?
Yeah, we learned about machine learning in fall 3, which starts October, late October, I think, if I remember correctly. And we didn't actually get to that phase in our practicum project until we started learning about machine learning techniques. So when you actually get the data, at least in my case, anybody else can jump in. We had like a lot of data cleaning to do and learning about all the variables as well. So it took us a while to get to that point, and we learned machine learning pretty much exactly when we needed it.
We had a similar experience for my practicum, and the clustering you're talking about, we learned in data mining, which was fall 2, I believe. So that second module. And you guys will all meet Dr. Race, but she has been such a phenomenal resource. A1. The concepts of machine learning can be very difficult, and all of the faculty want to see you guys succeed. So you can just schedule something with her if you have questions about concepts, coding issues, modeling issues, and it has been really helpful, and she's been really available.
Big shout out to Dr. Race. I love her. I had to learn like linear algebra in undergrad, and I really hated that class. And because Dr. Race was teaching linear algebra, like now I literally tell everyone I love linear algebra. Like it just makes sense to me. So when she teaches machine learning, it just like makes sense to you. And then my practicum project is actually a big part of it is clustering. So we've been able to get a lot of support from her. So definitely like no worries there.
Yeah, I'd also say to add on to that, if you're worried about like how your computer is gonna like shape up to like machine learning, at least for your practicum projects, all of that is on a virtual computer through the Institute, which has great computing power and storage. So don't feel like your computer has to be, you know, this rock, this huge thing. Like the Institute will take care of you, especially if you're doing machine learning stuff for your practicum.
I have one for you all. And what was the thing that kind of surprised you the most about the experience? That, you know, expectation versus reality. What kind of surprised you the most?
It's a weird thing to say, but I think it's the most fun I've ever had with the most stress I've ever had in my life. So you'll hear so much about the stress and the workload, and it is real. Like it's definitely a lot, but um, you do kind of learn to like it, I guess. It's fun, and you're doing something that's new and exciting. You know, don't let it overwhelm you, because if you have the right attitude, it's actually is a lot of fun as well.
And I guess I would have to say I wasn't really sure what to expect. So it has surpassed all my expectations. The people I've met have been fantastic. The professors are all fantastic. And kind of like Michael said, you really get in or you get out what you put in. And, if you have a good mindset and a good attitude, you're going to have a good experience and it's going to go well.
I think just adding on to the academic side, what really, I didn't even expect this, so it really surprised me, is how well-rounded institute really supports you. So we have, besides like these amazing teachers, we have coaching sessions, we even have a counseling center. We constantly have these like different like sharing meetings or anything. So I just feel like as a person, I've really developed beyond just academic knowledge. Like I know myself better, like I know how to like do teamwork because of these different team structures. And then like different coaching support meeting, if you run into something like in a teamwork, you don't know how to like solve, then you can like talk to the coaches. So really just like as a whole person, I feel like I've grown so much the past few months.
I was surprised by how many people came in without technical backgrounds. Like this program was really intimidating to me before I started. So I was just thinking that everybody was going to come in with all this knowledge and all this coding expertise. But I was really surprised by how many people came in and were just learning the same things that I was, or were at the same page that I was. And so I was surprised at how easy it was to learn how to code with the limited amount of experience that I had. And I think a lot of my peers kind of feel the same way if they came in with similar experiences that I did.
I would say the speed of the program was actually really nice. Not in terms of pace, but in terms of the way it sort of makes you keep things in perspective. So unfortunately, like if you have like a really good win, like you presented something and it went incredible, the downside is you don't get too much time to celebrate it because you just have too many things to move on. Okay, what's next? But the plus side is if you just take an L and it happens, and it's okay. You move past it. Like, you don't do very well on a quiz or something. You also don't have to like dwell on it because you have 5 other things to do, and that's okay. So that was something I did not expect, which has been good and bad, but very, 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 very good when it needs to be. So.
Any other questions? We can certainly wrap up early if you guys don't have any other questions, but I want to make sure that we're not closing out before we get to anything you want to ask. All right, Richard, go ahead.
So I don't know how much specifically you can say, but I do a question for Mackenzie because I'm currently working at Advanced Auto Parts. So what like high level are you doing with Advanced for your practicum?
Yeah, no, that's so cool. We at a very high level are looking at the different key drivers of store traffic. So like what Advanced Auto Parts can manipulate to bring more people into their stores.
Gotcha. Very cool.
That'd be so funny if you ended up with them as a practicum team.
Yeah, it would be. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is kind of random, but does the institute handle doing the headshots? Because everyone always looks really fresh in the headshots.
We do. This year was kind of a weird year because so normally we do them like the very beginning of the program during orientation, And I anticipate we'll probably do that with y'all, as we'll have all of our ducks in a row to be able to do that. And we'll probably have makeup days later on down the road for anybody who's not in Raleigh for orientation. But this year we actually had everybody use like one of those passport photo taking apps on their phone to do like an original photo, just so that they had a solid white background and be somewhat consistent. And then we brought in a photographer in the fall, and he socially distanced, took everyone's photos. But yeah, that's one of the little like side perks of programs. You get like headshot and other random things along the way. It's part of our brand. All right, y'all. Well, thank you all so much on both sides, current students and incoming students. Good to see your faces. Thanks for the good questions. Current students, thanks for your great insights. And current students, I don't want to like solicit you out if you're not open to this, but would it be okay if these guys want to reach out to you on LinkedIn?
Add me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, same. Please feel free.
Yeah, reach out whenever.
Anytime.
Same here. Same here.
Thank you all. All right, excellent. Well, you all have a great evening. And feel free, as always, if you have kind of administrative types of questions for me or for Daisha, you can always hit us up. All right. See you, everybody.
Thanks, Belle.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Belle.